we're going to explore some arts programs that have strengthened our communities greatly, and particularly the community in Nevada. And before we do introductions around the room, I would like to thank my vice chairs for their leadership here at NACo and in their communities, and especially the great ideas that they bring to our national arts and culture programming. So when I call your name, will you raise your hand? First, of course, is the phenomenal Kay Cashin. Kay? And these are buttons that Kay designed and had made for us.
You have ribbons too.
Yeah, and the ribbons as well. Okay. Tony Galori, he's from Louisiana.
Yes, he's here.
You're here. Wonderful. We have one man from Louisiana, Tim Lejeune, who couldn't come because of the hurricane. And so we need to say a little prayer for the folks there who are having a lot of problems down there. Allison Mays?
She's not in here yet.
Not in here yet. Okay, Renee, is Renee here? I
Don't see her either.
Don't see her either. But when they come in, we'll have them give a big hello. Now, we're going to do introductions around the room, but we don't want comments. We're going to let you comment afterwards, tell some of your stories, and go through that. So if you will just say your name and the state, the county and state you're from. Kay, we'll start with you.
No.
Good afternoon, everyone. Madam Chair, they're not responding. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you. Just wanted to be sure we were all awake. I'm Kay Cashin, Commissioner, Gulf County, North Carolina. Thank you.
Perfect, Kay. I know you can follow directions.
Oh!
Councilman Jerry Redd from the great state of Louisiana, and I ask you to keep Louisiana in your thoughts and prayers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Michael Ruddick, Michigan Association of County Staff.
Good afternoon, Mark Billingsley, Shelby County Commissioner, Memphis, Tennessee.
Good afternoon, Mikkel Lowry, Shelby County Commissioner, Shelby County, Tennessee.
Lisa White, Washington County Commissioner, Minnesota.
Commissioner Randy Maluchnik, Carver County, Minnesota.
Bill Altimus, Parish Administrator, Bossier Parish, Louisiana.
Stan Ponstein, County Commissioner, Kent County, Michigan.
Tiffany Stewart Stanley, Director of External Affairs for Douglas County, Georgia.
Denise Marie Neiman, Palm Beach County, Florida, County Attorney.
Mary Lou Berger, Palm Beach County, Florida, County Commissioner.
Tony Guillory from Louisiana, and I am part of the South region.
Larry Nelson, Waukesha County, Wisconsin.
Sona Gregory, Commissioner, Clayton County, Georgia.
Debbie Lieberman, Commissioner, Montgomery County, Ohio.
Billy Pappas, Hillsborough County, New Hampshire.
Tony Pappas, Commissioner, Hillsborough County, New Hampshire.
Bobby Sandoval, County Commissioner for Curry County, and that's in New Mexico. We are a state.
Oh.
Kate Becker, Collector of Revenue, Audrain County, Missouri.
Chris Hutton, Pierce County, Washington State.
Okay, thank you, everyone. But
Linda Langston.
Oh,
sorry. This whole line here.
I didn't see
Linda
you.
Langston, Lynn County, Iowa.
Oh, my goodness. Well, for those of you who are sitting around the edge, if there isn't a place card there, you're welcome to join us at the table, please. And we have three, I'm counting three, past chairmen of this organization, Randy and Tony and Linda. Did I miss anybody? Okay. Thank you for serving, and we appreciate it.
They're all doing it now.
Now I'm going to introduce our very first speaker. And as you know, most organizations have a spark plug. There's my Detroit. And our spark plug for this organization is none other than the incredible Jay Dick. Jay is from the Americans for the Arts. He's a Senior Director of State and Local Government Affairs. Please join me in welcoming Jay.
Thanks, Randy. How's everyone doing today? So I was just thinking about this. This is my 15th NACo conference. I'm getting old of things going on here. So it's a pleasure to be back with everyone and Commissioner Taub, and great to continue to work for you. I also bring you greetings from Jenna Moran, who's our NACo staff person. She has been pulled in, normally she can go about 3 different directions at once. She's been pulled in 4 different directions, so she will be joining us a little bit later. But everyone, I think, knows about Jenna, so she sends her regrets for stuff like that. I have the pleasure of being in D.C., or sometimes I have the pleasure of being in D.C., sometimes not, I guess, depending on if we have a budget crisis or different things that are going on. But I have the pleasure of working with NACo on a day-to-day basis, and so it's a pleasure to, again, be with us. And as I was mentioning to some of our past chairs, in the olden days, 8-10 years ago, we were meeting around a 12-top or a 10-top of this commission, discussing things, and now we generally have well north of 120 people that are attending this meeting. And so I have a feeling people can't quite find us, or they got caught on the casino floor with some sparkly lights or something along those lines, and so they are delayed getting with us. But I'm so happy to see everyone there. And the cool thing is, this is a representation of kind of what's going on in the nation with the arts and culture too. So you have in front of you a little thing that I'm not going to read through all of this, kind of a federal legislative update there. Now, the interesting thing though about this is, generally speaking, when I talk about the federal government support for the arts and culture, you think of what? The National Endowment for the Arts, National Endowment for Humanities that are out there. And so, and they're still out there, and they're actually doing wonderfully. Actually, this last couple years, as you know, the administration's budget has cut them out, along with public broadcast and some other folks. And by a bipartisan group in Congress, they not only restored, but they've added $2 million each year. Well, until this year, where they decided to add $12.5 million to the National Endowment for the Arts. And so it's already passed the House. We do not see why it would not pass the Senate. The Senate's a little backed up in its appropriations processes. And so this would put us at $167.5 million, which is the recent all-time high from when we had the culture wars in the 1980s, and the NEA's budget was cut by half at that point. And so we are up to, taking out inflation, an all-time high in recent history. And so we're very pleased with stuff along those lines. So if I stop there, that would be a success story. But there's several other cool things that are going on in the federal government, which I think also seeps down to the county level too, is where the NEA and NEH is in the Department of Interior. That's where that appropriations bill is. But we have the Department of Education, that we have arts and education grants that are on there, and I think they continue to go up. There are 30-some $1 million here on that. Then there's some now interesting things going on. So if you look here at the in the gray area on this part here, you see we're in the Department of Defense appropriations bill. Who would have thought that the arts would be in Department of Defense? But we are, for art therapies. And so we're in the report language for that, and so the number that they're looking at, it's $15 million for that, which is a good place to start. We're in the Veterans Affairs Appropriations bill, so a fourth bill for that. So again, adding $5 million for, again, creative art therapies that are going on. And then if you go down to the blue, juvenile justice, and so in the Department of Justice appropriations bill. So we're now in the arts and culture are now in 5 different appropriations bills on the federal level, and that is an amazing thing. And I think you see that going down again to the counties. And so everyone has in front of you, I call this our little pinwheel, it's our Social Impact Explorer. There's 7 different versions of this out there, so your version is not going to match the version next to you. You have to go 7 seats down for that. But it's composed of 26 different topics that the arts authentically interact with. And so mine, I have arts, religion, and spiritual well-being. And in the middle, it tells you kind of what it means. And then if you would click on there, if you go to our website, it would bring up 3 different programs that already exist. And so AmericansForTheArts.org/social impact, I encourage you to go there because I know your first love at the county level is the arts and culture because you're here. But if you do happen to care about transportation or you do happen to care about health care or juvenile justice or something along those lines, go here and see what programs already exist in that category and see if you can integrate them into your existing programs that are out there. I know when I work with this and I show this to different elected officials, the first thing I get, especially if they're not really up to date on what the arts and culture does, is they're like, well, why is the arts and culture dealing with this? And then I explain it to them, and they go, oh, it's kind of that V8 moment, like, oh, I never thought about that. That makes perfect sense. Some of you have like a healthcare one here that just integrating the arts into some healthcare procedures. It doesn't cost money. It saves. I think who has the number? I think it's $2.5 billion. Who has the number of healthcare? $2.25 billion is saved if you integrate the arts. And I'll give you just a great example of what that means. Juvenile or pediatric MRIs. So scary things, you have to, and they tell you loud noise, but sit still, don't move. Well, how many 3-year-olds are going to do that? Just by, they bring in an art therapist to sit with the child a little bit beforehand, calm the child, centers the child. And so normally those pediatric MRIs have about a 50% failure rate because the kids move or whatever. And so what happens then? They have to then, drug them or different things along those lines and repeat the test, which is much more expensive. And so hospitals have been finding out if we have an art therapist in there to kind of help center them, it gets up to a north of 90% success rate, which in that case saves about $600 million just in that procedure alone if you extrapolated that out. So again, the arts are a good investment, and that's where I think you guys understand this because you're coming to the Arts and Culture Commission, you're wanting to learn more about what is going on. So there's a lot of great things that are going on the federal level that you still see going down to the state, county, and local levels. It's you wouldn't really think of it. It's a great time to be involved with the arts and culture because we're really spreading our wings, and we're doing that because of people like you who realize, wow, the arts can help with just not only my making people feel better or making them understand their place in society and where they like to live, work, and play, but also making their communities safer or revitalizing an area. So there's lots of great things that are going on there. I'm going to stop, and we will do questions afterward, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of a federal update. I am always around on this sheet. My email's on this sheet. Everyone's always welcome to say hi to me and ask me different questions. And, I visited Shelley, I visited Oakland County last year, 2 years ago, somewhere about there. I'm always happy if I'm running around your neck of the woods to stop in and say hi to. So thank you very much. And I'll turn it back over to our chair.
Thank you. Isn't he wonderful? And he truly is a spark plug. He was with us years ago and we met in a phone booth, right? Tony? Okay. We have some chairs around the table, so please feel free to fill them in right now. It's silly for you to sit way in the back or pull chairs out. I now have the pleasure of introducing Tony Manfredi. Tony joined the Nevada Arts Council as Executive Director in September of 2017, and he provides the strategic direction and leadership for the organization, assessing and overseeing, I'll move over here, the current programming, optimizing business development opportunities for artists, art organizations, and the public. He represents both the agency and the state in regional and national forums and manages the staff and budget housed within the state government. Today he's going to tell us a bit about how counties can better engage with our state's arts agencies and what types of programs and resources NAC has made available to the counties in Nevada. And this is important to most of us because we don't get much from our states, most of us. So, welcome, Tony. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Pleasure to be here. Are you enjoying the kind of, we're at a cool spot here in Las Vegas. So hopefully you've brought enough warm clothes to get you through. I actually live and work in the northern part of the state, so live in Reno, work out of Carson City. But as mentioned, we are a part of, we're the state arts agency, and we cover the entire state, so it's a pleasure to be down here in Las Vegas. We love our city down here. How many of you are familiar with your own respective state arts agencies? Excellent. And hopefully you're doing some collaborative work, or at least know of some of the programs and opportunities they have. We'll talk a little bit more about state arts agencies. We'll talk a lot about what the Nevada Arts Council is doing. But before we do that, I want to piggyback on a little bit of what Jay was saying and really get to the point of everyone understanding the value of the arts and why it actually matters. How many of you would consider yourself artists? How many of you have ever said to yourself, I don't have an artistic bone in my body? People are born with it, right? Okay. I think we're at a point here with arts and culture that we oftentimes put it up on a mantle or put it up on the wall and think that's, a painting or a performance. And I'm asking you to really kind of reframe that thinking a little bit. How many of you would consider yourselves to be creative? I expect to see a lot more people to raise their hands. I won't ask you to raise your hands on this next question. But if I were to ask how many of you would consider yourselves Republicans, I would suspect around half would raise your hand. If I were to ask you how many of you consider yourselves Democrats, another half might raise your hands. But I will ask you to respond to this one. How many of you have been to an arts and culture event in the last year? Right. So very much you can see the value. One of the wonderful things that arts and culture does is it breaks divides, brings people together, cuts across any kind of political challenges that we may have, and it really is a convener. So think about that in your counties and communities and places you are. Bring the arts in, utilize that, and realize that it's really a critical component in all of the challenges that you face. As Jay highlighted this document, really I would argue there isn't much that arts and culture can't help solve. We may partner on it, we may be able to collaborate on it, but artists and creative thinkers bring a lot to the table. So please don't consider them after, but bring them in right away. Critical need, critical value, creativity we talked a little bit about. Arts also have sources of new ideas, future concepts, connections, prosperity. They create thousands of jobs in Nevada. I'll highlight that in just a minute and enhance our economic health. And then there are skills that go with creating art. So the art aptitudes and techniques that are needed in all sectors of society and work. From the job side, real money we're talking about now. Study from the U.S. Bureau of Economic Analysis cites that $7 billion, with a B, dollars, and 4.7% of the Nevada economy is brought in by the arts and culture sector, so value-added sector. That's not just arts businesses, but that's also the wake that happens of those organizations that support arts organizations. Contributes to over 41,308 jobs. That's real money, real jobs, real work, right? So again, arts, when times are great, people want to fund it. The challenge is when times are not so great, oftentimes it's thought about, it's not really that critical. Here you can see how critical it is to the state of Nevada. And I would suspect in all of your areas as well. From Americans for the Arts Creative Industries in Nevada counties, every county save one has art businesses and employs personnel in those businesses. The one that doesn't is Pershing. I'm not sure, Jay, we ought to talk about Pershing County, but does anybody happen to know what happens in Pershing County once a year? Have you ever heard of a little festival called Burning Man? Yes. That happens in Pershing County. So while there aren't specific jobs associated with it, certainly a tremendous amount of revenue that comes into our economies based on that. Again, every single county except Pershing, and you can see the number of arts businesses and the number of people that those businesses employ. Again, real money, real jobs. From a public opinion survey that was also conducted by Americans for the Arts, we had some Nevada-specific data. It was fantastic. Ultimately, Nevadans are more highly engaged in the arts more than ever now. They realize that arts promote personal well-being, help us understand other cultures in our community. And think about that for a second. We'll talk more about it during one of our program areas. They're essential to a well-rounded K through 12 education. Again, we've seen instances in our state where the arts are electives, pushed off to the side. The state of Nevada just confirmed new state fine arts standards, brought them back into our curriculum. That means that teachers can teach to them, that they are encouraged to teach to them, and there's some really fantastic data behind the value that arts education provide to our students. And also that the government has an important role in funding the arts. And as Jay mentioned, the NEA, they are a very big supporter of state arts agencies. I'll talk more about that as we go. But again, critical funding is provided through the federal government. 76% of adults, and you guys actually blew this away, but 76% of adults in Nevada said they attended an arts and culture event in a year. I like to see that. We beat that here. And 73% agree that the arts are a form of pure pleasure. I think we all can enjoy a little pure pleasure in our life. Many people think about the arts in that way, but also 70% agree that creativity enhances success in the workplace. 61% say their job requires them to be creative, either as a team or individual. Again, think about the businesses in your counties, think about the needs that they have to fill those positions, think about the challenges that those companies are facing, and understand that the arts are really a great driver in helping solve a lot of those challenges. 75% believe that they help students perform better academically. 62% believe they improve healing and health care. And 49% agree that they help military personnel transition back to civilian life. And all of us have seen instances of these where we can see where that can really benefit the results of these topics. And 85% of adults are in agreement that the arts attract travelers and are good for tourism. In Nevada, 54.2% of non-local event attendees said that the primary purpose for their visit to a state was specifically to attend an arts and culture event, and that they would have traveled to another place to go see a similar event. So again, really nice to tie into tourism and aspects of ways that you can bring others into your counties. So the arts and culture can stimulate business development and economy. They contribute to a region's overall economic productivity with the creative talent base that's already in place most of the time. Again, you see pre-existing assets that the communities can effectively harness and rapidly mobilize for economic growth. Placemaking, arts and culture are a central aspect of successful state and local placemaking efforts, and they foster community vitality, which is a very desirable quality of life, and destination appeal that's attractive to residents, businesses, and visitors. So in the state of Nevada, how do we handle all of this? Well, one of the ways we do it is through the Nevada Arts Council. We're authorized in statute. We were created 52 years ago in 1967 to bring about the arts and culture aspects of the state, and we continue to do that today. We're one of 55. You'll notice a gap up here in the top of the slide. We're one of 55. Anybody from Alaska? Didn't see anybody when we were doing the announcements. Alaska is in the middle right now of some interesting challenges in their government. Maybe you've heard about it. But one of the casualties of that right now is that their state arts agency has been defunded. We're hopeful that that will come back into play. But what that means is that state arts agency cannot accept a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts because in order to receive that grant, the state has to match it. So we're crossing our fingers and holding hope for Alaska that will get settled. But right now there are 55 state arts agencies. They are there to ensure that every community receives cultural, civic, economic, and educational benefits of the arts. They support both rural and urban communities, enliven public spaces, drive educational success, reach low-income communities, and create opportunities for artists. Through the Arts Council, we have 6 areas of focus that we program. And in your respective arts agencies, if you've seen one arts agency, you've seen one arts agency is kind of the example. All of us are a little different, although we have some similarities. But this is what the Nevada Arts Council does. One of ours is public initiatives. We have a 9-member governor-appointed board. And through that, we engage our board through a public info and arts initiatives area. We look at awareness campaigns. We look at special opportunities that are available for the agency to help pursue our work. We also have an artist services area that, what did I do? Our art of service areas focuses on the individual artist and honors and showcases their work. We do assistance with phone consultations, e-blasts, site visits. We have a couple exhibition series that we do. We actually put artwork up in the legislature. We have a biannual legislative session, so we put up art in our legislative offices. We also have a Nevada touring initiative, which takes professionally curated exhibits and tours them throughout the state. Many of our smaller counties, this is the only professional curated exhibits they will see throughout the course of a year. So it's a really cool program that we provide. Arts Learning is another program area that we have. We have arts education, which is when you think of arts class, like a painting class or a drawing class or a performance class. There's also the arts integration side, where the arts is actually put into topics of conversation. You may have heard of the word STEM. We look to push it to STEAM. Again, really making sure that the arts are a part of that, of those topics. And then arts for social development. So an example of one that we brought through the state this year, Bruca Theater out of Reno, put together a presentation called Galileo, Stars in His Eyes. It was an integration theater for language, arts, and science. We took it on the road to Esmeralda County, where we had 21 students in attendance. Silver Peak Elementary, 7 students. Dyer Elementary, 46 students. Interestingly enough, those aren't big numbers, right? I mean, you're not seeing big numbers there, but the impact that has and the engagement that has for those kids, it's life-changing. So we're really proud of that work. Poetry Out Loud, all of your states are part of Poetry Out Loud. There's a state champion that's crowned in all of your respective states, and they go on to national competition in D.C. We had a woman here from Clark County, Vanessa Ponte. She was crowned champion this year, and she represented the state in D.C. Community arts development is another area that we have, probably one that's most relevant to your areas in a lot of ways, but it's really looking at elevating the arts and culture infrastructure from the state side. So we expand the skill set of our creative force, professional development opportunities and networking, and really try to increase access to the arts, providing strategic planning, technical assistance, and the like. Peer networks that we have in this area throughout the counties. Again, we do calls and different things to bring. Nevada's a pretty large state with a lot of space in between spaces, so we do calls to bring everybody together. And one of the coolest programs that we just started was called a Basin to Range Exchange. It was really about bringing urban and rural areas together to collaborate on arts programs and art projects. We had 17 partnerships formed, 50 participants from across the state took part of it. And we were able to award $1,200 grants to this activity. It was pretty cool for the first time that we went out and did it. Our next convening is going to be in Tonopah again. Tonopah is, interestingly enough, almost center as far as driving goes for the state. So we'll be convening that in April of 2020. Folk life. This is when I said to you, think about how arts and culture can bring different parts of the community together. This is a really cool aspect of that. Most of you may think of folk life, indigenous cultures, native cultures. Absolutely true. But I ask you to think about this. What are the customs and traditions that you all have? How do you celebrate your holidays? How do you celebrate? What kind of food do you have? Where did your family come from? That's really what folk life is all about. And through a program that we've put together through the NEA grant, we have our hashtag Nevada Folk Fan, Find Your Folk Life. And the idea and concept of it is that each of you have your work life, right? But you also have other things in your family and maybe other cultural activities that you do. So we're going to be creating lenticulars. Have you ever seen what a lenticular is? If you've seen something, those design pieces that change shape when you look at them in different angles, we're combining these as part of this program. But you see, a person who works for the Forest Service, but then also is part of one of our native tribes. And we have a bunch of these that we're putting together. That's really, when you start to look at it, we are so much more similar in our ways than how we are different. And oftentimes, this is a great way to think about how we can break down some barriers that we might have with our communication when we start to look at ourselves this way. Again, these are Nevadans in their everyday life and some of their cultural activities that they do. Most people know the Arts Council through our grants program. We're able to offer a little over $1 million every year to grant funds. Those grants are awarded to individuals, nonprofit organizations, and government entities. We have some grants that cover multiple areas and go across different genres. Happy to talk to you about more of those if you'd like to know, and you can always look at our website. And again, more importantly is to look at your respective state arts agencies' grant applications. We offer competitive grants. Those are judged and juried by a panel of experts in the field, so the agency is not the one saying these deserve funding or not. We actually have panelists come in. And then we have non-competitive grants, which are issued on a first-come, first-served basis. The general criteria: artistic excellence, community impact, and artistic merit. We really want to make sure that the work that's being created is getting out there and affecting the community. And then project planning and management. Again, oftentimes the arts get the black eye of not being good at managing themselves. And we're really set to try to make sure that, we want to change that mindset, really helping artists and arts organizations understand the importance and value of what it means to run your business, so to speak. How does all this happen? We get funding, as mentioned, through the National Endowment for the Arts and the state. All of it contributes to our $2.7 million budget. And for our 2018 grants and activities, 139 zip codes reached, 50 cities, all 17 counties, 309 grant awards for a total of $1,020,000, $66 million of cash and in-kind connected to those grant awards. And you may ask, how much of that is cash versus in-kind? 61 million is cash. Again, real money coming into our communities through this grant work. Over 61,000, I put it on the slide. I didn't have it on the slide before, that's why I said it again. We engaged with over 1,300,000 people in 2018, and 370,000 of those were K through 12 students. That's with a staff of 13 people. So really proud of our staff and what we do, and with that $2.7 million budget. So with that, I will step aside.
Actually, Tony, before you step aside, before you do your applause, quick question. You have a $2.7 million budget, so I want to put this in perspective to people. That's not a lot of money, first off, compared to a lot of other government agencies. And what per capita are you in the States?
For
funding. So 1 through 55, what are you? Do you remember approximately?
I don't know what we are. Yeah. I think we're...
I think you're around the middle, aren't you?
Yeah, I think we've actually gone up. Maybe a little bit
You've went
higher.
up a lot.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
My point is, they're doing a lot with not a lot of money. And just even a few years ago, you guys were almost zeroed out too here. And so I really want you guys to go back. If you don't know who your executive director is of your state arts agency, email me and I will introduce you, because they can bring a lot of great tools to your county to help you do the things that you need. So I just wanted to point that out. Tony did an excellent job, but I wanted to point out and put that in a little bit of perspective of how much you're doing with how little resources you have.
Yeah, appreciate that.
Thank you, Tony. This was wonderful. And I was fascinated by the people who are working and then have another type of cultural life, family life, and I'd like to hear a little bit more about that and how you put that all together. I think many of us could do this within our own communities and bring our communities together. Up next is Mickey Sprout, who's going to give us a glimpse into county public art programs. Mickey is the cultural program supervisor for public art in Clark County Department of Parks and Recreation. She does so many things. It's a huge list. She manages the public art office focused on creating large-scale public art in both rural and urban settings. Okay. She does education for professional artists, youth education. She also operates 2 galleries and oversees the conservation of the collection. I don't know how you do all this and still have time for your family. Let us now welcome Mickey Sprout. Mickey?
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much. Let me get really situated. I tend to run on, so I'd like to put on a timer for myself. So thank you everyone for having me today. I am the supervisor of our county arts plan. It was established in 2013, so we're 6 years into the operation. I'm about a year and a half into the program. We modeled our arts plan funding off of a percent for the arts model, using 5% of room tax collection and 5% of ad valorem. Now, when you look at Clark County, obviously, one of our major industries is tourism. And so in 2018, that industry was worth $10 billion. We had 45.3 million visitors, and we had a little under 150,000 hotel rooms available to those visitors. So when my commission established this program, they did decide to put a cap on this program at 1.25 million. As far as the size of Clark County, we're a little over 8,000 square miles. That's equivalent to the state of Massachusetts. So when you're looking at, driving, if we went from our southernmost point, which is Laughlin, AV, and we traveled up to one of our northern towns of Mesquite, it would take roughly about 3.5 hours to get there. Our population in Clark County is 2.3 million, and in unincorporated Clark County, that's 1 million. Those 1 million individuals are who the arts plan serves. We serve the unincorporated Clark County. And that landscape, as Shelley said, was both urban. So where you're sitting today is unincorporated Clark County. So thank you. You contributed to my program. And then we also have rural locations as well. Our arts plan, we have numerous public art in our collection, some before the arts plan. But basically, we have some standalone or several standalone sculptures that are within our parks, trails, and medians. And we also have over 400 pieces that are painted utility boxes within Clark County. But today I want to focus on two particular projects that had a huge impact in Clark County in a different way, or in a different light that you could take home to your county. So the first project is Child Haven. Child Haven is ran by social services, and this is the building that children come into if they've been taken from their home. So if there was a bad situation and they need to be removed to find a safer place for them to go, they are admitted into this facility. Roughly each year, 3,600 children walk through this door of Child Haven. And that's average, about 10 children per day come into this facility. So when they arrive, they walk down this hall and they see two other halls as they're coming in. And these halls were very dark, scary, and it wasn't, it's not a place that you want to be. You're already scared as a child, and you come through this foreign place. So my predecessor pitched this to my art committee, and he gave this statement: we have the opportunity to paint a different path, one of hope, compassion, and understanding, instead of sterility, abandonment, and institutional indifference. So pretty powerful statement. The art committee said, yes, we need to do something here. So they funded the project for $75,000. They did an artist call and ultimately chose Sush Machado. And Sush was just a perfect choice for this project. Bright colors, magical land, and animals. Like, you can't go wrong with that. Here's a couple pictures. Now, this project is very hard to photograph, but I think you'll see on this slide the difference. It drastically changed the way these children saw this hallway. We did invest a little bit of money also to replace that lighting. So for you today, I want to have you think about this. When you go back home to your counties, talk to your departments. Find out if you have processes where you're taking in children or any of the frontline interactions. How can art change those interactions, make it more positive? In LA County, they have a program right now for artists in residency in their local government departments. And right now they have 3 positions that they're funding, and these artists work 1,040 hours within the year, and they're engaging in what are those processes, what are you doing? And they're in, like I said, three different departments. So if you're interested in that program, contact LA County, contact their cultural department, because they're super excited about it. They're doing some great things. The next project, which I'm going to go very quickly, is the Overton, Nevada project. This was a mural project in Overton, Nevada. Overton is a small town about an hour away from here. Some people commute into Clark County, into Las Vegas, but they also do have livestock farming and small mom and pop shops in this town. And so when we're doing a call for this, we ask that the mural be of the history of Overton. And, And so, that history is important. It's in the town hall meeting room. Every time town hall meets, they have a reminder now of where they came from. It also reminds them their duty to keep that rural lifestyle that is so important to them. But here's where this project's going to be of interest for those of you that are looking to secure more bonds or more funding for your county. What you're looking at isn't a mural painted on the wall. It's actually a 12-foot by 40-foot oil on canvas painting. This isn't being done. It's not being done in the country. I don't think it's being done in the world. But it's an asset now for Clark County, because now we could take this piece, and if town board moves, we could take this piece with them. If something happens to the building, we could take it out. If we had to, we could sell the piece. But more importantly, because it's an asset, what we could do is leverage that piece for better bonding. So you get better credit scores that you could leverage for higher bonds. Now, Clark County isn't doing this. It's actually City of Reno that is taking their public art pieces and doing this program and getting more bond funding. And so if you want more information about that, contact Admin Services. That's where their public art is located in. So the last thing with this is this project was finished in 2018, and it cost us $50,000. The artist Jig DeBeppo has been invited to exhibit in Philippines, Italy, Russia, and England since this project was finished. He recently sold a piece for $200,000. And as you know, the value of art increases with popularity and with demand. So now our $50,000 asset is most likely worth well more than the facility that it's being housed in. So, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Vicki, and we appreciate, I don't know if those of you who came in by taxi or saw the beautiful sculptures, I don't know whether the animal sculptures on the freeways, if you didn't get a chance to see them, they are amazing. And they're all metal, and so if you get a chance, take a look at the freeways, the sculptures. I don't know who did that. Was it the city of Las Vegas, perhaps? Pardon me? The state did that. Okay, the state. Well, we can learn some things. Maybe our MDOT in Michigan will learn to do that. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Now, last but not least, we're joined by Gabrielle Enfield of Washoe County, Nevada, and Joe Machade from the Burning Man Project. They're here to talk to us today about their partnership and how they're working to bring art to the rural parts of Washoe County through the Washoe Art Trail Project. Gabrielle is the Washoe County Grants Administrator. She has served at the county since 2001 with 6 years as a Community Support Administrator, working closely with community-based human services organizations and addressing the homelessness. During her career, she has designed, written, and implemented grants for facility construction, planning, emergency equipment, housing, social services, and a public arts project. An avid innovator, she is dedicated to maximizing the investment of grants funds to improve communities with an unrefuted belief in the power of collaboration. Additionally, Gabrielle brings her passion for outdoor experiences to her work on the anticipated Washoe R Trail. I think it's AR, capital AR, and a capital T for trail, placemaking project. And we've all heard of the Burning Man Civics Arts Project. And Joe is here to develop tools, engagement opportunities, and artist interfaces that extend Burning Man culture and practices from playa to public space. Joe has been a part of the Washoe Art Trail Project since its early stages in 2016. Let's give a big welcome to Gabrielle and Joe.
Good afternoon. I can see it here. Okay, I guess I'll look here. There we go. The Washoe Art Trail is a public participatory experience along a 200-mile route through Washoe County that celebrates cultural, historic, and artistic landmarks. So for us, a really important part of this description is public participatory experience. We want people to experience their community, and our county is a very large county, 6,500 square miles. So we wanted to do a big project that incorporates all of this area. You heard in the introduction, I'm not an arts and culture professional. I am the county's grants administrator, and this is really our first endeavor into any permanent public art. So we're going at this with our partner, who knows all about art. All about it. So why develop an art trail? One, we wanted to celebrate the uniqueness of Washoe County, our unique natural environment, as well as our unique peoples that live in Washoe County. So our county spans from the Sierra foothills, along the Truckee River, up to Pyramid Lake, and up to the playa in the Gerlach area, and as well as the high deserts. We have a lot of variety in our area as well as our people. Also, economic development. When we first looked at the National Endowment for the Arts grant, we were thinking about economic development specifically for that small community in the northern part of Washoe County, the Gerlach area. It's about an hour and 40 minutes from Reno, and it has about 300 people live in that area. This is close to where the Burning Man event is held, but that's one time a year, so we were looking at something that would be more year-round and bring people out to this amazingly beautiful place. Strengthening community. So we know that the arts can strengthen our communities. We wanted to have our residents as well as our visitors see all of the beautiful art, historical, and cultural assets of our county, and to better understand the places where their neighbors call home. We're building on a culture of arts. So the city of Reno, which is our county seat, has been doing art for a number of years, and with Burning Man in our backyard, we have world-renowned art and artists in our community, and this project builds on that foundation. How it came together. So we first applied for a National Endowment for the Arts grant, and this is an Our Town grant, a placemaking grant. So placemaking focuses on capitalizing on the assets and innovation of a community to create public spaces that develop happiness and health and well-being. So it really fit well with what Washoe County wanted to do, and a good opportunity to bring arts into our community. Washoe County support, our county commission, our county manager, and initially were very supportive, and throughout ongoing, we've been working on this project. We initially submitted the application in 2016, so it's a long process, and over time we have incorporated many more county employees throughout the process. I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Stakeholders and partnership support. This is a big project, so we all know we can't do these kind of things all by ourselves. It takes collaboration and support from others in our community. So with a little help from our friends, you'll see the 2 incorporated cities in Washoe County, as well as Pyramid Lake Paiute Tribe, and a number of other organizations that assisted us in various aspects of the project, as well as also providing us with many of the sites, and I'll talk a little bit about our sites along the trail. Many of the sites are owned by some of these partners. And staff throughout Washoe County. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that because of this group. And, when we started this project, we initially wrote it and started it through the manager's office, and now we have over 14 staff in many departments, from communications and technology services, capital projects, planning, building. So it's not just our external partners, it's our internal partners that we need to collaborate with, and what makes it really work.
I think that's me.
Yeah.
All right. If I can. Let's see the mouse. There we go.
Uh-oh. Yeah, it's not showing up on the
He's
screen.
an artist. He's not an IT guy.
Nope, not at all. We're just trying to go to full screen. It's fine, just like that. Yeah. Perfect. Hi, everybody. I am Joe Macheda. I'm the Civic Arts Coordinator for Burning Man. I heard Tony ask if people know what Burning Man is. I heard a few yays, a few groans. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the event and then more about what I do, which is kind of taking the ethos of Burning Man out into the world and working with wonderful partners like Washoe County. So Burning Man is a temporary city. It's also an event or an idea. It depends on what you kind of put on it. But it is the third largest city in Nevada for about a week, and then it disappears. 70,000 people come to the Black Rock Desert, which is in Pershing County, to create, to connect. It's not, there's no ascribed roster of musicians or commissioned artists to come bring anything to Burning Man. Everything that you see is brought by the people who want to give something. Like I said, it's a fully functioning city. We have our own airport, we have a post office, our own medical services, there's a hospital. And again, everything that people bring, their skills and talents and interests are all gifts. Nothing is exchanged through the form of money, even bartering. Everything is actually intended to give to people that are interested in participating in this crazy civic experiment. So the art in particular is what I'm after, and the through line that I found, and that we as Burning Man, as an organization, talk about a lot is kind of the magic that comes with co-creating work. Whether it's building a city or a single art piece, almost everything that comes to Burning Man is done collectively. It takes a lot of work to bring all your tools, your materials, everything you need to live and survive in the desert for a week on your own. And so most of this stuff happens, as you can see, with a lot of teamwork. It also ends in a week. Much of the art at Burning Man does burn. This piece I'm showing you right now is called the Temple. There are two structures that Burning Man supports the actual construction of, which is the physical man, which burns at the end of the event, and the temple. The temple is a cultural symbol, a place where people can come and mourn or grieve or express any forms of loss. Often people will put up photos of loved ones or small mementos and let it all go at the end of the week. So it's a really special piece. And hundreds of people work on constructing the temple. I'm using this as kind of a through line because the work that I do is an expression of carrying that work out into the world. In 2012, Burning Man Project was formed. We were initially a for-profit LLC and then formed a nonprofit so we would be more able to do work out in the world that isn't just focused on that week in the desert. So this is one of the first projects I worked on 5 years ago with the same artist who created the temple that you saw at the Burning Man event. This is in San Francisco. It's a temple in Hayes Valley. Kind of a similar sentiment. The artist put Sharpies out all over the place, inviting people to write notes of loss or grief or anything they wanted to express themselves on the physical piece. We obviously didn't burn it in the city. That's one kind of difference in working in public art. But it was an interesting experiment where we found police officers were coming up and questioning people that were marking on the structure until the artists came up and said, no, actually, that's the concept here. So this is an example of what Burning Man Project is doing out in the world. We're looking for the magic of what happens at Burning Man, the relationships people build when they create a work, or what do I want to say? As Tony was saying, people don't always consider themselves to be artists. Burning Man is a place where people decide that they are. And so we want to foster that in the world through all these different types of partnerships. I'm going to tell you about, again, this is a David Best work. The Smithsonian American Art Museum did a full retrospective exhibition of Burning Man art called No Spectators. So this is another example of creating an opportunity for people to experience and connect and get a sense of what the culture is without having to physically go to the desert. So in this ballroom, David has crafted what would feel like the inside of a temple at Burning Man. So someone can come in and, again, people are writing all over the walls inside the Smithsonian. kind of turning on your head cultural norms and what we think is okay in terms of forms of expression. So this exhibition, again, is an example of what translating different contexts can do for how people experience art. This is a scaled down version of this almost 3-story sculpture in the desert, also at the Smithsonian. And another kind of fabulous whimsical piece. These were kind of undulating mushrooms that would change their shape and color as you stood on a little platform near them. So No Spectators is an example of communicating what this culture is and what it's about, and an invitation for people to participate. Playa de Paseo is a partnership that we have with the city of the city of San Jose. It's a 2-year partnership where we are bringing literally art from the playa in the desert to downtown core of San Jose's walkways or paseos. We've put 5 pieces on the ground since 2018. We have 5 more planned over the next year, and a second phase that will involve the co-creation of an artwork that won't be at Burning Man first. It will be created by anyone that's interested in participating, along with an artist in San Jose. We're going to get back over to how I got connected with Washoe.
So the different components of our project, before I jump into that, we initially wrote the application for the NEA Our Town grant, and if you're familiar with these grants, they require that government partner with a arts and culture organization, and we were very fortunate to have Burning Man as sort of in our backyard, and really with very strong connections to the Gerlach community out in northern Nevada. So we came to the Burning Man leadership and proposed partnership. We were very pleased that they are working with us, and it's been a really great collaboration so far. So what you're seeing here is one of the 2 new public artworks that will be placed on the trailheads. So this one is located in a Washoe County park that is along the river, that is on the western edge of just inside the Nevada-California border. So right on the edge there, you start there and go. And this art is rammed earth. We were very lucky to find a wonderful artist team. Thanks to the artist selection process was conducted for us by Burning Man. And we got a really great team that is an architect, a geographer, a photographer, and an artist. So they came together and made this one piece for kind of the Sierra foothills area, and it's rammed earth, and when it's created, it will be created with volunteers and with community members actually participating in the ramming of the earth. So it'll be a really collaborative process for the community as well. This is the other piece of art in the northern Gerlach area. It's a much larger piece. It's 60 feet long, 18 feet tall, but it's on the playa. So if you're familiar with the playa is very open, as you can see from the pictures. There's nothing out there, so it is really works with the space. So this, just to give you a little idea of the trail, so you can see, I don't have a pointer. That area, the lower corner is where it starts with Crystal Peak, goes along the Truckee River, up to Pyramid Lake, and then all the way up to the top near the Gerlach area, and that is about 115 miles. Of that, about 50 miles is bikeable, walkable path that is already existing path. So the route is along roads and paths that already exist. You'll see that this is a list of the existing sites. So we have the 2 new art on this end and at the top. And then all these other locations are existing art, history, or cultural sites.
I might go back a little bit and just talk about the call some more. So with opportunities that when people present opportunities for Burning Man to become engaged with, one of the questions we ask are, what do we add that is unique that no one else can offer? And with this project, the decision was made that we could architect a call that would be not ascriptive, that we would be inclusive of people's perspectives and interests of what they wanted to see reflected about their culture. So we hosted a number of story circles, which Gabrielle will get to kind of surfacing people's interests and ideas. But what I want to say is that the structuring and the architecture of a call for a project like this is actually what Burning Man is interested in, rather than seeing something that might necessarily look like a Burning Man artwork. Wasn't our interest. It was more about bringing as many people to the table and opinions and voices to kind of elevate and reflect what people were interested in seeing happen in their space. So with that, this is the first time we've had a formal relationship with Washoe County on an art project, but the relationship is reflected in the culture already. Las Vegas, I've been told, is actually the place with the most Burning Man artworks placed in its city, but Reno is not far behind and very active and colorful in that relationship.
Yeah, let's go back one more. So these are three of the different sites that are existing. So 2 of these are City of Reno placed art that was on the playa. And then this is an artist row, actually, where galleries and makerspace are on Dixon Road, and it's right along the river, so it fits right in. Just a few examples of some of the sites. This is very interesting. It's called an airmail arrow, so it's historical. And it used to be, when they did airmail, this arrow would point them to the airport where they were going to drop the mail. And it's a little difficult to get to. So this is a bonus site. So we've got a couple of those that are harder to get to. So they're bonus sites on our app, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then just showing the path, and this is Pyramid Lake. So some of them are urban artworks, or just the nature and the beautiful places. And then we did do story circles. Stuart here, self-proclaimed buckaroo, grew up in and worked out of Gerlach. Native American stories, we have a couple of Native American recognized tribes within Washoe County. So we went out to each of these communities. We're big. We went to Verdi, Reno, Sparks, Pyramid Lake Paiute tribe, and out to Gerlach. So if you want to see any of these stories, you can go to our website and watch them. They're great. Too close? Okay. This is another one of our, actually this is coming up next week, so we're trying to get out, and we'll be doing a lot more community engagement with the project as we get closer. Where we are right now, we broke ground on the foundation for the Crystal Peak last Monday. So, and that one should be done by the end of August, and that is a rendition of that. And we'll be having a Moonlight Artist Talk next Tuesday as part of Art Town, which is a month-long artist festival. So we'll be doing the artist talk. We'll also have some stories from some residents. We bring people out, listen to stories of their fellow, their neighbors, and participate. We'll be doing a lot more of this kind of activities as we get closer, working with the students up in Gerlach, having some more engagement as far as what goes into some of the walls. We can have etchings specific to that local community. So I almost forgot about the app. So the app, we want people to be able to travel along the art trail. The app provides the opportunity to do that, as well as some competition and bonus challenges. Also, there'll be a little bit of information about each site, and then the website will have a lot more, historical, cultural content. And to say our public tech services guys really love working on this project. A little more interesting than some of the work they generally do. And that's it.
I don't know which mic to use, but I'll figure it out pretty soon. I think we've had some incredible speakers today, and now is your opportunity to ask any questions you might like to ask of our guest speakers before we go on to your part of the program. Does anybody have any questions?
Shelley, before you do questions,
Yeah.
I've been taking notes, and some of our speakers, I know not everyone, how many people, this is your first Arts and Culture Commission meeting, by any chance? So we have a few new ones, so I just wanted to make sure, some of our speakers said a couple different things I want to make sure you understand. So Commissioner Taub pointed out a button. I think there might be some out there, the $27.5 billion. And now you can actually pick up a ribbon at the ribbon counter. And I just want to make sure people understand where this comes from. $27.5 billion is the amount of tax revenue that is generated by the nonprofit arts at the federal, state, and local levels each year. When you compare that with the amount of money that is appropriated to the nonprofit arts at all those levels, that number is $5 billion. So $5 billion is put in by people like you, and $27.5 billion is brought back in through tax revenue. So when someone says to you, "Hey, the arts, that's just throwing money down a drain or whatever," no, actually, if you invest in the arts, it's a 5-to-1 return on investment on average. So I want to make sure people understood where that came from. And again, Commissioner Cashin was the one who, out of her own money, I think last year, created these. Out there, and I'm very happy that NACo has put them into practice with a ribbon. So if you haven't already done, grab a ribbon, and now you actually know what the ribbon means, and I would certainly tell you to express that to people there. The other thing I wanted to bring up real quickly is Tony mentioned the GDP for the state of Nevada, which was 4-point-something here. The national average is 4.3%. Of gross domestic product, which is $840 billion a year for the creative industries, the creative industries. That is actually larger than construction, agriculture, and transportation. So anytime you're thinking, the arts, and this is across the nation. So anytime you hear someone say to you, the arts and culture, they're not really. There's not a lot of them out there. Actually, there is. There's actually a lot more than you actually think. So I just wanted to clarify 2 different points, Madam Chair, just so you know what we were talking about.
Thank you, Jay. Like I said, he is our spark plug. If you have questions, please feel free to ask them of our panelists. Any questions? Thank you. Identify yourself, please.
Kate Becker, Audrain County Collector of Revenue, Missouri. I have a question for the young man from Burning Man. Do these municipalities and do they come to you for these installation pieces of art, or do you come to them?
Everything that we have partnered with has come to us. It's typically after the event that I get inundated with all kinds of inquiries from municipalities, private collectors, other events, and we are still a small nonprofit despite Burning Man being a very large event. So we have to be judicious and really think about where we can be the most additive to projects. The Playa de Paseo project, what attracted us to that was thinking that we might be able to influence public policy or coding, or just cutting through some of the red tape through having a model and an example of what a community partner can do with a city agency with a common goal. So that's hopefully a little test case that we're going to take on the road to talk about.
Other questions? Yes. Okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Back to the Clark County presentation, yours, I think. You made a quick reference to painted utility boxes. Could you talk about that a little more? And was that through competition of local artists or what?
Yeah, so with Clark County's funding, my commissioners chose to, for our public art projects, to utilize local artists. So it's only, our calls are only open to Clark County residents. ZAP has actually been going since 2005, and ZAP is our utility painting box program. It's really what started the arts plan. It was so popular in Clark County that City of Las Vegas has picked it up and City of North Las Vegas has picked it up. And actually all over the country, multiple cities and towns are doing these utility projects. So for us, we do a call. Typically, we select about 10 artists through an RFQ process. And then once the jury scores those applicants, like I said, the top 10 will then create designs for us. Our stakeholders will take a look. They'll work with the artists to ultimately get those painted on the boxes. And in Clark County, we use water boxes, we use energy boxes, and we use traffic boxes. I have to say the easiest to do is to do your traffic boxes because then that's internal with your public works. But it's a great program.
Are the artists paid?
Yes, the artists are paid. We paid them $2,500, and they do between 3 and 4 boxes. And they paint on the street, so there's a lot of community engagement. It's really fun. I do have to say, if your city does do it, make sure your police officers know what's happening ahead of time. We unfortunately have had a couple incidences where the artists have gotten in a little bit of pickle. We've had to get them out of jail. So, but no, it's a wonderful project, and we definitely learned very early on to be very, very public about it, and we give them signs and credentials and letters so that they have things to give to the officers. Yes. Okay. So one other thing that we learned with the utility boxes is you want to do it on your main drags where your businesses are. You don't want to try to go into your communities and be, in front of a household. It's going to make it very difficult. That one stakeholder or 2 stakeholders that share that, they're going to get into the nitty-gritty with your artists wanting to dictate what that design is.
And did you have any control over the content of the art?
Oh, 100%. So you have stakeholders that you've chosen that you hope would make those correct decisions when they're looking at the person's artwork. That they're selecting their top 10 artists that is going to represent the county very well. And then within that, we tell the artists to go out into the community and get a feel for that community. And then, of course, there are things about copyright that we don't allow. And then, obviously, we wouldn't allow nudity, profanity, things that wouldn't be moralistically correct for the general public. So
we have some public art that, quote, public art that is emerging that's funded by one individual. And it's gotten rather risque and rather controversial. And actually, from my perspective, and this is my personal opinion, I'd much rather have the graffiti that we see done by some of the gang groups than what I'm seeing on some of these buildings. So, and I just wondered if you have, if you're critiquing the art after it goes up or during the process, or you give them the freedom to develop whatever they want.
Definitely, and this is always a hard subject, and for those of you that are commissioners out here, you know, you have to walk that fine line. You don't want to be the person making those choices on that imagery. That's why it's important to set up an art committee, a committee of advisors that will advise you. When, you know, everyone has a different opinion about art, and you're going to have 10 people that love an art piece, and you're going to have one person that dislikes it. It's one thing to remember, and we all know this in government, it's a good day when we get a good compliment, but those are few and far between. And so we hear from constituents that are upset more than we hear from the people that love the pieces. And so it's important to place policies and procedures that cover you, that makes it safe for you as a commissioner, but also safe for your staff. Put in policies about deaccession. In Clark County, my predecessors were brilliant, and I thank him for it. He put in a clause that says, look, when we put up a piece of art, and you're talking about $100,000, $200,000 piece of art, the constituents cannot have it removed for 3 years, because in 3 years, they're going to love it. You know, not everyone loved Magic Mountains when it came here to Vegas. You had people complaining about it. You had political people complaining about it. But now we have people coming out to Seven Magic Mountains. We have food trucks sitting out at Seven Magic Mountains. So, and guess what? Those people that were very vocal went, this is the best thing ever. So give it time. When you have issues like that, give it time. But a panel of experts, it's going to be a win-win.
Commissioner Cashin, I was just going to also say, if you don't have a local arts agency to draw upon to create that panel of experts, that's again where you can go to your state arts agency, because that's what they do, is they put together panels of experts to help with things along those lines.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Kay. Yes.
Renee Price, Commissioner, Orange County, North Carolina. So I have a question about the Burning Man exhibit, and basically I like the idea that it's community oriented, and we've done a couple of things in Orange County that way. So how, for example, that temple that was done, how far in advance, is that built by many people, and if so, how far in advance do you start?
Yes, it's built by a team of hundreds of volunteers, and we have an entire week before the event where artists that are doing large-scale work are building in the desert before the event itself is happening. And even before that, people are working for months on the man structure and a lot of the work that you see in the temples.
Okay, so the temple's not done in a week.
It's not done in a week.
Oh. No. Okay, and just a quick question on the art trail. I saw that it was inclusive. You included the Paiute tribes and whatnot. Do they benefit as well from any revenue from the trail? And also, how did you get them involved?
They do. The sites, there are a couple of sites that are, one is their museum, which is an amazing, beautiful museum. And there's a few other sites to draw people out to Pyramid Lake, so they will definitely benefit from the increased visitorship. Particularly one of our sites, which is a bike ride. You have to take a bike ride from the museum to a fish hatchery where there is a place where you can see the pelicans and coming in to catch all the fish. And if you're going to do something like that on the Paiute tribal land, then the recreationalist would need to purchase a a permit. So definitely those kinds of, if you're really going in and recreating on their tribal land, then you would purchase a permit, and we'll be able to facilitate that through the app. They were really excited about the project. So initially, we got them, contacted them early on when we were first developing the application for the NAA Our Town grant, and talked to the tribal leader, and then followed up with going to have a presentation at the tribal board as well.
Other questions? Yes, sir.
Commissioner Doherty from Morrow County, Oregon. I had a question relative to the Burning Man. I always wanted to go there in the late 80s, early 90s when I was just about half scared to death to go. And I kind of envisioned like the attorney in the opening of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, and this is the folks headed there. So, but I wonder, how do you? It kind of, to me, it becomes a bit commercial, and it's art of the art. How do you retain the organic feel of what it used, what it is or what it was?
So one of the things that is a cultural association with Burning Man is people love to give out stickers with little clever witticisms, and my favorite one that I was ever given was, it said, "It's supposed to change, it always has." And anyone that has gone to Burning Man for any period of time knows that since you've been going, it's different than it was when you first started. And I think that we embrace that. And I never really know what to say about the commercial element, because there's still no money at Burning Man. No one sells their work at Burning Man. I think that's a perception. I think maybe it's more about people becoming more aware of the event and talking with authority without really having a lot of authority about what they might think is happening out there. But decommodification is in one of the ethoses of, if that's a word, ethoses? Is there a plural for ethos? Oh yeah, we've got a whole group of mayors. Washoe County actually helped facilitate that. Mayor Sheevy from Reno.
The U.S. Conference of Mayors has the Mayor Sheevy of Reno chairs for the last 2 years has brought out a group of mayors. They've held it's called the Tapes Committee: Tourism, Arts, Parks, Entertainment, and Sports, and American History Arts is part of that. And I got some good photos if you ever need some blackmail on some people. No, actually, it's a lot of fun. So yeah, they're having fun out there too. So you're safe.
Commissioners are coming next.
We have a question over there. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Mary Lou Berger from Palm Beach County. I was curious on, money becomes a big thing when you're a county commissioner and everybody wants you to do everything in the world. And Palm Beach County established back in 1980 a bed tax, and I was curious to know if any other counties that are joining us today have a bed tax. In 1980, the county commission created that, and it's collected when someone stays at one of our hotels. They collect that bed tax, and that bed tax money comes to our tourism office. Our Tourist Development Council is what it's formally called, and that money comes in, and that's where we get the money to be able to give money out to the entities. For example, we have a cultural council, we have Discover Palm Beach County, we have a sports commission, we have a film and television commission. So the money that we draw in from the bed tax is used to help those 4 different entities be able to do projects and get things done. And I thought I would just put that out there for you. We also have a convention center that it also is funded by the bed tax. And we are in the process now of expanding the convention center because it's become so popular. And the artwork that we have out in the front of the convention center is interesting too. But I just wanted to pass that along to any counties. That's because finding that money to do all those great things, we did it through a bed tax.
What's really interesting is last year, actually last March, we were at this meeting in the Ledge Conference in D.C., and I stepped out for a little bit to get a drink of water or whatever, and one of your peers from Hamilton County, Tennessee, Chattanooga, grabbed me and said, hey, the same question about hotel motel tax, that they're collecting it, but it's all going to the Convention Visitors Bureau, tourism, and none of it's actually getting down to the arts and culture groups, because as I always tell people don't come to stay in a hotel, they come for that unique, authentic experience that's going on. And so I put together a whole, because he brought me down and I testified in front of the county commission down there. So I have a whole PowerPoint on hotel motel taxes, the different, and you're one of them. I use it as an example, actually, where from big to small of how counties and cities are using hotel motel tax. Most everyone has a motel tax of some sort. The question is, what does it go and fund? Most people, I think, have it go back to the general fund, which is nice. But again, you're bringing in people, those tourists that are coming in to see that unique, authentic experience, and so you need to support them too. So excellent point. And if you want that, again, give me a ring or an email, and I'm happy to provide that to you.
Other questions?
I
Yes.
had a question for her. Was that bed tax that you have, is that just on hotels that are out in the county, or also for motels that are within the cities that are within the county?
No, it's collected all through.
Even those motels that are within the city, the county gets the money, the city does not. Or is it money that's on top of what the city would collect as a hotel motel tax?
Some of them have different counties and cities have different arrangements, and so again, I can send this to you, that sometimes they just split it 50-50, sometimes it's 70-30, the county gets 70, the city gets 30, or 50-50. It just all depends on what the agreement was that was struck up when you authorize this, and so it varies. And I don't know specifically what yours are, I can't remember, but it varies a lot.
Do we have any other questions? Well, seeing none, first of all, I'd like to introduce you to the other spark plug for this commission, Jenna. Jenna, will you stand? Thank you, Jenna. And Jenna's going to present to all of our guest speakers a little certificate thanking them very much for coming today. Now, we'd like to hear from you if you have any art projects, county projects that you're doing. Anybody have something to share with us? Nobody's doing anything? Okay, here we go. Tell us again who you are, where you're from, and what it is.
Jim Doherty, Morrow County, Oregon, County Commissioner, and I apologize. I got here late. I think that this is the most important committee in NACo. So I think without this,
Matt chase that.
I think without this, we're all lost, right?
I think we're feeding our souls, and that's the best part of it.
It's the only thing that keeps us civil. We out there, small county, 12,000 folks, a lot of wind apparently and sun. We've now got the largest renewable energy project with wind, battery, and solar all combined. And way out in the desert there. But one thing we did is I sat down with the next era folks that come in, and you can imagine a county with 12,000 folks is just 5 small schools. And we've gotten them to donate $1 million a year to the schools over the next 15 years, and the county is going to put together a STEAM program. And like K through 14, we're not going to, the funds aren't going to the school, but we're going to sit down and go out and try and put the program together, and then get a group like y'all to watch this and take care of it and nurture it all the way through. And I'm super excited. It's going to give those kids out in the rural area an opportunity like they've never seen. So it's just an exciting project.
That's good. Portland just did something similar to that too. So reach up to them.
Yes. Somebody's going to come with the microphone. Tell us who you are, where you're from.
I'm Maureen McGuigan from Lackawanna County, PA, the northeast corner of Pennsylvania. I always say this, so the home of The Office, if you like that show. So everybody knows that. So one of the things, and I'd love to hear from other people, I brought one of our artists who was able to come with us. We're really interested in that arts and kind of like this. How do we really cross-collaborate so that it's not, public art is great, but then how does it become part of the systems and really try to change people's lives by becoming part of transportation or human services? So we started an Arts Engaged task force that's children and youth, drug and alcohol, mental health, all of those departments. And we've had a lot of success. I brought Gwen because one of our successful ones was she made 5,000 ceramic butterflies. It's not an exaggeration. And we use it as an engagement tool to get people to think about how transformation happened in their lives and work with different groups who may not be in the dialogue or the club through maybe even more vulnerable. So we're really looking at that. It takes a while. I think the biggest thing is to make those relationships and get to those people and become part of the process. Art really needs to be not just a vehicle, but just part of it. So I'd love to hear from other people, but that's something we're working on.
Well, I'll just start with that, and if anyone has any things to chime in. The first thing I always tell my arts group is you're not out to go to, in this case, the county commissioner to say, here's what I want to do. You're more apt to say, here's how I want to help you solve your problem. So maybe it's juvenile justice issues or something along those lines. Here's how we can help you, commissioners, solve this problem or make it cheaper or more cost effective. So spin that around a little bit. The other thing is you're right on the thing. It's all about relationship building. Take time and go take out whoever your the head of your county department of housing. Because again, and take this little thing with them or whatever. And again, they might not have ever thought about how the arts could help them create a safe, affordable housing in a space. But if you could just get in front of them for a little bit and explain it to them, then again, oftentimes it's that V8 moment. I've really never, if you really sit down with someone who is open to listening, and I really never found a time where they say, oh, that's a lot of BS or something like that. We have a lot of the data. And so go AmericansForTheArts.org is our website. We have all kinds of free data. Go to the Creative Counties Initiative that NACo is doing. And again, showing that other counties are doing a lot of great things out there. But it's at the end of the day, it's relationship building and then following up with the data. And we got the data for you. We can help stuff along those lines. But I'd be interested to see, from either commissioners who might have been approached by the arts and what was the argument that kind of worked out for them.
Also, Gwen is great. She's worked with all kinds of people, so if you would like one of her and talk to her, so I just want to make a plug for her.
Kate Becker, Audrain County, Missouri again. Sorry, I am not a commissioner. I'm a tax collector, but I also sit on our Arts Council locally. And we do make sure that there is funding municipally and at the county level for arts projects because we do have a very heavy baby boomer population. And so we focus a lot on creative aging as well as mental health, specifically for veterans. Being a veteran myself, we do focus and work with a team called Team RWB, which is the millennial and a little bit older than millennial generation of veterans. We don't really feel like we belong much at the VFW. We're not quite spending a lot of time at the VA. So there's these day camp projects, and it could be anything from a mug club in the morning having coffee with a coffee cup that we made at our art center on a special day, or doing veteran yoga in the morning. And all of those are funded through our municipality. They're completely free to anyone over the age of 55 and any veteran in our community. And we've really seen a reduction in the cyclical people that end up in front of our police force for mental health issues, as well as getting people out of their home. They may be homebound just because of lack of, their spouse has passed away and they just didn't have that friend circle yet in the community to engage mentally with. So we're seeing a great intake in that. And it's not a huge investment. I think the county puts in $2,000 and the city puts in $15,000 in our biggest city, but it's really made an impact. And we were able to actually expand our art center. We built a $4.6 million expansion last year with cash. So our community is seeing that investment as well, and they're putting their funds in.
The arts in the military is a huge area of where we're seeing a lot of people realize, that the arts and culture can really have a substantial influence. Actually, Governor Parsons of Missouri is a big proponent of this. I got to him when he was lieutenant governor and bent his ear about this. Again, this is a gentleman, he's an Army person himself who really hadn't given two thoughts to the arts until I was at a National Lieutenant Governors Association meeting with him and bent his ear a little bit. And he came up to me and he's like, okay, what do you want? And now, because of a secession issue in Missouri, he's now governor. And yeah, it's a little nice way to put it. And so now he's governor, so you never know. So, figure out what makes that elected official, what they care about. Are they a veteran? That's the biggest area. Do they have a kid that plays the saxophone in high school or something like that? I mean, I had another governor that credits his kid playing the trombone for keeping him in college because it made him practice and gave him some skills that he didn't have. So doing a little research to figure out what makes your other people tick too. And feel free to give me get an email, and I'll try to help a little bit more too.
I will just say your state arts agency will also have stories of impact, so to speak, of grants that they've given to areas. Every area that they've in the state, I'm sure that they would have a grant, or because there's reporting back that we have to do, and that data that Jay is talking about, the number side is great, and then certainly that heart side, those stories of impact things are really important because that just helps sell it and send it home.
Kay, you had something you wanted to respond to?
Yes. I was just sitting here wondering, since apparently several of our attendees today are from smaller counties, our competition, placemaking, our town projects, etc. I just wonder if Jenna could give us a couple of ideas of some of the projects that have been put into play this past year since that came on board, because that might be ideas for folks.
Sure, thanks, Kay. So just to give an overview for those of you who don't know, and Jay mentioned it earlier, I think, NACo, in partnership with Americans for the Arts through an NEA grant, has started the Creative Counties Initiative. If you were at the legislative conference, each of those teams spoke and gave an update on what they were doing. But just to give an idea of what they've done over the past year and a half through their program, we have one team, for example, in Melvin Hauser over in the back, is from Pottawatomie County, Iowa. And similar to Washoe County, they were working to start and implement a public art trail. They sent out an RFP and identified the artist and selected a piece to be designed and constructed. However, they had recent flooding, so that project has been a bit pushed back in light of that disaster declaration, but they're still working to get that project implemented. We have the Athens County, Ohio. They had a lot of different objectives that they're working towards, but they have focused a lot on their own community challenge program that was in existence already, and they added a creative placemaking component that was required to that grant. So any community who participates in their challenge program has to have a day where they bring in artists to talk about the issue that they're tackling and have arts as part of their conversation. And then the last team that I'll give an update on is Iron County, Utah, which I'm actually going to go visit on a road trip on Friday. So I'll have more to present after seeing it in person for the first time. But they're the home of Oregon Shakespeare Festival, and they have a huge facility. I can't remember how many $1 million, but the Beverly Center. So they were working to sort of tie their university that's downtown in the Beverly Center. That area in between was sort of blighted, so they wanted to try and bring it all together. But through the process, they realized that there were 3 or 4 other organizations who were working in parallel. And so instead of recreating the wheel and continuing on, they have, as a group, become part of those other efforts, and they come together as a group regularly to update each other on how they've incorporated the arts into other existing planning efforts.
Thank you, Jenna. Does anyone else? Renee, did you want to say something? Whoop.
We actually set aside part of our budget. I was trying to look up exactly what the percentage was, but it's a small amount that goes specifically for either schools, school art programs, emerging artists, or art organizations. And we also work with it's a North Carolina, what is it, Arts Commission? Yeah, North Carolina Arts Commission with a grant program. And we actually advertise the Americans for the Arts on our website. So, yeah. So that's one way that we continue. I mean, it is set aside that we are going to give this amount of money for the arts. Still, it's not enough. We're still trying to figure out how to build an arts center for the county. But that's one way, at least, of getting artists involved.
And one of the ways that I always try to phrase things is like, and I'm going to pick on you just a little bit because I know you and I can, is you said, we give away X amount of dollars. Actually, you invest. You invest in the arts. And so we need to make sure that, and I hear this a lot, and I'm guilty of it still too, is our language. We invest in our roads. We invest in our housing. We invest in our prisons. We also invest in the arts because, unlike the rest of those things, they return a dividend back to the community. And so we have to be thoughtful about that. So thank you for making that little error for me to think about it.
If you leave a little bit early or whenever you leave, please be sure you scan your badge because that'll allow us to send you information on the arts. It'll give us a count of the number of people who are here. Is there anybody else? Yes, sir.
Hi, Larry Nelson from Waukesha County, Wisconsin. We're in our 13th year of a NEA Big Read program that we call Waukesha Reads, and we're very happy received another NEA grant. This is the first year we're doing a nonfiction book. We're doing the book Lab Girl by Hope Jaron, which is a memoir about a female scientist, and she's in Norway, so we couldn't get her to come. But our keynote speaker is going to be Michelle Thaler, who grew up in Waukesha and is the assistant director for science communication at NASA. And we have one of our local art galleries that they have an artist that does art related to the book. We do a service project for our county's food pantry and a variety of activities, including dinner and a movie, which this year we're showing Hidden Figures because that ties in with the female scientist theme. The other thing going, and that's in the month of October. First week in November, we're in our 10th year of our Southeast Wisconsin Festival of Books at University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee at Waukesha. We have two keynote speakers, Andre DeBus III, who wrote House of Sand and Fog, and we have a Wisconsin poet laureate who's going to be a speaker, and I think most states have a poet laureate program, so that's a good connection. And then we also have a student essay, poetry, and short story contest related to the book festival.
Any other? Okay. Introduce yourself, please.
Hello, I'm Gwen Harleman, and I'm the art director of the Verver 2 Art Studio. I'm located in Luzerne County, which is a sister county to Lackawanna County. And I just wanted to share a little bit about what I do. I work with artists with intellectual, physical, and emotional challenges, and that's where the bones of the structure of our art studio begins, but it's also used as a community hub. So our studio welcomes all people of any diverse ability, and I like to use that word opposed to disability. And with that diversity, you get all types of people. So we're talking about many demographics here today that are kind of segregated into separate entities like veterans, seniors. But the beauty of what I hope our studio reflects is that all people are welcome of any demographic, and it works. It's the Montessori philosophy, which is there isn't a specific demographic that you're serving, it's serving the whole person. And not only that, but you're welcoming the entire community to join in. And so that hits emotionally, physically, and spiritually in one kind of, and it's amazing the friendships that, and actually it was, being an artist, I'm not really politically connected, but it's amazing how sometimes politics works in my favor. And that was something being from Pennsylvania, that we have the Office of Developmental Operations. And so what that does is that kind of gives you guidelines you must follow, and I'll say guidelines opposed to red tape, which I like to say. But anyway, with those guidelines, they kind of dictated us that we needed to do something different to make our program work. And so our art studio works with involving all community people. And so it's really fascinating of all the people that I've been able to meet, and I'm very thankful to be here today because I've gotten a lot of great ideas, so thank you very much.
Thank you. Before we lose anybody else, I'd like to remind you that tomorrow from 6 to 8 at the Clark County Government Center, we're going to have our Arts and Culture Awards reception. So write that down, put that in your book or in your calendar, 6 to 8 tomorrow at Clark County Government Center. Remember to have your badges scanned, please. Renee? Renee? Yes. So I don't know how far it is from here. Jenna, do you know?
It's about a 15-minute car ride. Yep.
Okay, so I think we'll probably have to maybe go together in taxis or whatever.
Yeah, it's in downtown Las Vegas.
Okay. And this isn't downtown.
No.
This is not downtown. So remember to have your badges scanned. We do have our General Session starting soon. And it's in the other hotel. It's in Bally's, right? Yeah.
This one.
So if you if you're in the registration center of Bally's and you're looking at registration, it's right to your left. All the doors.
Yeah. It's in the event center near registration. Okay, that's the other hotel. I think we're in a different hotel.
No, this hotel.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you so much. We look for, one more person.
I was just going to say, if you need your badge scanned, I'll just be right by that door so you can come and find me. Yeah.
Thank you. We'll see you in January. Yes, thank you.